Hey, how's it going, YouTube? How are y'all doing? It's been a while since I posted new videos, so I thought I would. Um, hope everybody's been doing well as they can be. While this Delta variant is going through, we had the Afghanistan withdrawal, where the Biden administration ended up leaving behind multiple allies, and even some of our own soldiers. Now, when it comes to that, I'm going to be very brief. I don't completely blame Biden, Trump. It's no president's fault in this whatsoever, and it's kind of it's kind of short-sighted to blame any president for the way this went down. Um, I mean, it kind of can look at the military leadership in a way, but the thing is, it was poor planning all the way around. I wish it would have went down way different than what it did. I wish none of our soldiers, I wish none of our allies, none of our friends that helped us out during this 2 decade long war got left behind. I wish everybody was able to make it out. And that's pretty much what I want to leave it at that. I mean, this subject's been beaten to death over and over again. But one of our greatest concerns is China's just right around the corner. It seems like more and more we're going to see a possible war with China somehow. But the one thing I do blame Biden for, and I do think there's been a lot of neglect on, is the attacks that's been going on from Russia on U.S. personnel, both abroad and domestically, when it comes to the sonic pulse attacks that have been going on. We've seen it in Guantanamo Bay. We've seen it in Miami, Virginia, and places like that, where individuals, especially in our military and intelligence fields, are being left nauseous and so forth from these subsonic attacks, these audio attacks, however you want to see it. And you don't really hear about it too much on the news for some reason, but you can. Stars and Stripes has talked about it. American Military News has talked about it. So you see it from these locations. And this is perpetrated. I can't talk. This is from Russia and China. We've seen some very interesting things. China's apparently buddy with the Taliban. Go figure on that one. I mean, really go figure, considering in China, Muslims are being killed. So there's kind of this, I guess, the enemy of my enemy is my friend type deal going on there. And really, because of the way we handled stuff, the United States did, the way we handled everything, we've lost confidence on the world stage now. England, France, and those countries have really kind of turned and said, can we really trust the United States at this point? And that's not good for us. And ultimately, a lot of this does fall back on Biden. One of the most disrespectful things Biden did, though, was the name of the 13 soldiers at their, and them being brought back home, the 13 Marines that lost their lives. There might have been other groups too, but I just vividly stuck in my head the Marines. I'm just right off the top of my head right now. And Biden just wanted to keep looking at his watch the whole time, instead of really paying attention. And he wanted to talk about his own son who passed away from brain cancer during this, instead of really focusing on those Gold Star families in a sad time, in a time where those deaths could have been avoided. But that comes from ISIS. Yes, that group is still around. We seem to have forgotten about them for some reason. No one talks about it as much. They still have a very strong presence in Syria, Iraq, and then ISIS-K, which is the group that is in Afghanistan, did this. And again, this is one where even the Taliban does not like ISIS. And the attack from ISIS there was targeting that airport. And then by targeting that airport, they took out Afghans, they took out our 13 soldiers, wounded many more, and it was a tragic attack. And what happened? Biden didn't do much. There was a drone strike on one of the ISIS-K compounds, or ISIS in general. I don't know if it was exactly ISIS-K. And I think but he ended up not killing anyone but civilians, and a lot of it being children. So you can say that was failed retaliation, I guess you could say. I mean, I wouldn't even put that in collateral damage. Collateral damage, is an unfortunate side effect of war, and we do get it more than what should be given, especially with the tactics that's been going on with the guerrilla warfare that's been going on in Afghanistan and even Iraq for the second Gulf invasion. But when no target is hit other than children and some civilians, that's when we have the larger problem. So not only is the Afghans having to worry about this the reformation of the Taliban as a government entity, now they're having to worry about Biden playing loose with whatever's going on in that brain fogged mind of his right now. It's a sad situation, and actually Biden's actually dropped down in overall ranking. Anybody who watched college football last weekend, you heard the F chant Bidens, and I mean, the memes following it was pretty funny too. But the thing is too, we don't really need to. It's a sad situation at this point. It's not even a laughing matter anymore because of all the failed series of events that's been going on leading up to that. It's been really bad. And then, another aspect of this channel, besides talking about some of the foreign news and all that, Congress is putting a bill together to get rid of Space Force now, which I really don't have an opinion on Space Force. They're such a new military branch that they do take some stuff off the Air Force's back the Air Force was handling, and it gives a little bit of credibility to how serious the United States should be taking space exploration again, even though it adds that military aspect where you do have many former airmen now becoming space warriors, Space Force, I forgot what they call it, Guardians, that's it. They're becoming Guardians. And I don't think this early point in the infancy of the Space Force, Congress should be getting rid of them at this point. But I do know one thing: Congress itself needs to stop acting like a bunch of babies, and it's both sides of the aisles. It's not down the middle stuff anymore. It's Republicans and Democrats. Both of them are acting like this is the third grade playground session at an overcrowded elementary school, and not even a private elementary school anymore. It's literally one of the saddest times that I could think of recently. And no, and anybody who knows me, and I've said this, I might have said this before on this channel, I don't believe that we've actually had a real, true, qualified, outstanding president in a long time, probably over 50 years. Theodore Roosevelt is the first one that comes to my mind when it comes to that. And, I mean, that's a long time ago. I mean, if you want to talk about equality and stuff like that, going back, I mean, Roosevelt was the first president to pay women the same amount as male counterparts that worked for him in the White House. He supported the original women's rights movement. He was an early supporter of civil rights before civil rights movement even really started and got a foothold into our nation. But that's what you get a lot of times with these early Republicans. One of the biggest arguments I hear online is people talk about, well, Democrats were different. then, and the Republicans are different. The Democrats of today were the Republicans yesterday. That's actually wrong. When the political shift actually took place, there was only 4 Democrats that actually switched sides altogether. Only 4 Democrats became Republicans, and no Republicans became Democrats. Literally, the Democratic Party. I even saw some comments today talking about how Democrats were conservative. No, the Republicans have always been a conservative since they started, since that political party's birth. They've all been for smaller government, more personal responsibility, and more constitutional based. One reason they actually that Lincoln and his administration and stuff, they actually supported ending slavery and stuff. It's because of them being conservative, them being constitutionalist. I mean, straight up in our Constitution it says, "We the people, in order to form a more perfect union," and I mean it keeps going, and it says, "All men are created equal," and that was one of the keys. So Democrats, on the other hand, yes, it is the party of the Ku Klux Klan, which yes they are, and yes Democrats can be conservative. The Ku Klux Klan, there's 3 iterations of the Ku Klux Klan. The first one was a military extremist Democrat, Southern Democrat, and it spread from there. The second one came from out west, California area, and then the third one, which we see today, is a neo-Nazi white supremacy hybrid of the two that formed Chicago area and places like that. I mean, Biden's on mentor was a Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan out of West Virginia or Virginia. I can't remember exactly which one. I believe it was West Virginia. That and Biden, for crying out loud, literally has, when he ran against Obama in 2008, made racial comments towards Obama, calling him boy. And I didn't think your kind of people could speak so fluently. Biden's plagiarized speeches, not just once, but multiple times. But Biden actually, remember, the Democrats are the ones that wrote, quote unquote, Hillary Clinton's super predator bill. Biden was actually a key author of that. Harris, she actually used that bill in California to place many people, minorities, behind bars, meaning for the rest of their lives for simple, even drug offenses. But yet, when you had celebrities like Kobe Bryant, she worked out deals and helped them get off when she was in her position as the state's district attorney, as the state's prosecutor. So you got to keep that in mind. I mean, there's a video where I call out President Harris, and yeah, people jumped on me over that. Of course they will. But they don't understand the facts, I guess. They don't want to see that. I mean, you even have Democratic Party members now, AOC and others, talking really down to minority groups, saying that, African Americans in rural settings can't get an ID and can't do this, can't do that. Well, here's the issue. Why are you putting people down like that? That's the first question I want to ask any of them. Why put them down? I mean, there's no reason to really put them down. Simple, because one, you can get a $30 printer at Walmart where you're able to print off stuff. I mean, there's no excuse. And I mean, the biggest issue that people in rural areas, especially in the South, have is high-speed internet connection. And that doesn't matter what color your skin is, ethnicity, race, anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. It's literally location. If you live in one of the smaller cities, stuff like that, you do have access to internet. Even some of the companies like Spectrum works out deals now where if you're under a certain income, you can get reduced to even free high-speed internet now. So, I mean, it's there. It's really appalling to hear leaders say in 2021 that people in the South, in rural areas that are minority, are disadvantaged because of income. Well, I can literally take you places right now where, yes, you can see minorities struggling. But I can also take you to another part of my city where you see a lot of Caucasians suffering. I mean, if you really want to break it down race-wise, the richest race in the United States is Asians. It's not Caucasians. I mean, some of your highest paid entertainers, sports figures, stuff like that, are minorities. Really, and I'll be honest about this. You got to look past color. You got to look past race and all that, especially in our country right now, in our time. This is the United States. I look at the red, white, and blue. I mean, we got to start thinking more about this. I mean, our country was divided before about race, and tragedy struck. I mean, it literally took the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to get the quote-unquote, as you can almost say, it was a pity vote from the Congress at that time to end segregation, to fight segregation. But Biden, sticking true to his guns in 1979, 1980 to 1984 especially, he fought bus desegregation. He bus schooling up north in Boston and all that area. It's widely sought and seen that way. And if you're lying to yourself, you really are. If you think either party really cares about you, but Biden, we literally went from people calling Trump a racist. Trump gave more money to historical black universities than any president has in modern time. He gave the first African American female Marine a commander spot. I mean, not her being the first, but the first to hold that position. She was a female and African American. That happened under Trump by his authority. So, and yes, she was qualified at that too. It wasn't just a play, say, oh, look at me. But people got to realize too, the media is the biggest enemy there is. They're the ones that does this a lot of dividing. When you have Biden, who really said it would be a racial jungle if African American kids were able to ride with, he used his own children as an example. I mean, you can go on TikTok and Biden's nephew makes fun of him. I mean, the Biden's a jerk, and he's a prime example of how Democrat Party only cares about the black vote every 4 years. Why do Democrats do bad in midterms? Because they don't care as much as they do with the presidential election. That's point blank honesty. They don't care about minorities. You hear the hot terms around the election cycle of the school to prison pipeline and all this other stuff. If you actually look at it, there's actually more ways for African American students to get into colleges if they choose to take that route than it is for whites. White people, unless they have Native American in them, and that has to meet a certain percentage there, they don't have as many scholarship opportunities. And then you have other things that contribute into that also. And it's the great myth of Western society of white privilege. It's the great myth of Western society that if you're a minority, you're already disadvantaged. Because it's the truth. And we gotta stop having this victim mentality in our society. We do. You can't just sit here and say, "Oh, I'm a woman. This and this happened to me." No, it's true. There is a disparity between women's pay and male pay. That's something that should end. I do believe in pay equality when it comes to that. There's also the thing where, one of the biggest things, I think tech schools, technical college, trade schools, more people should try to focus on those, because that's one thing in our society that's becoming in more demand without people being able to fill it up. A lot of people are going to college. A lot of people want to get these liberal arts degrees. It's no good use to you unless you're going to be a teacher. Focus on degrees and focus on the stuff that's going to help you further yourself. That's my biggest advice to any of the young kids coming up. Focus on degrees, programs of study that actually has a liable and viable future in it. Don't go and study literature degree unless you want to be, you know, a newspaper writer, an editor for a website, a blog site, or something like that. You are going to be an author, and you know you're damn good at it, because publishing is really hard to get into, even though everything's digital now. Publishing is still something that's hard to get into, because there's people like myself that loves books still, and it's hard. And take this from someone who's written 2 books and I'm working on my 3rd right now. Publishing is extremely hard. It really is. And even making money off it is extremely hard. I've done music too, and I can tell you right now, music to me was a lot easier than the publishing world. But even in sports, you only have 3% of everyone who plays sports that make it to the pros. They could prolong that. But there's stuff out there, there's degrees out there that you can do. Air conditioner repairman, stuff like that. You know, have that guys make 70 something plus thousand a year. That's better than that's up there with like lawyers and stuff who, depending on your law firm, yeah, it can definitely bring more than that. But I want you to think about something. Military, 18,000 to 22,000 starting pay for the United States military. You can work at McDonald's and make more money than that before this whole $15 an hour thing started. That's a fact. You can make money. So, yeah, a lot of people do still resort to the military because they want to further their education, and they don't have those degree opportunities allotted to them. Some people want to join the military to see the world and do this, and that. Military is probably one of the most viable options there is out there, but don't expect to make a lot of money. Don't buy that Ford Mustang at 36% APR. You know, don't marry your first wife to be a stripper. You know, it's just stuff you got to think about. And just remember, whatever you think you're going into the military for, it's not going to be the job you probably end up with. If you go there wanting to be a tanker, you might end up being an engineer building bridges. You know, that's just something you gotta think about, keep in mind when you do join those branches. And education is important. Better your ABVAB score is, the better jobs and careers open up to you in the military. Just like in real life, the more qualified you are for a position, the better starting pay you're probably going to get. As simple as that. You know, once the military's over, you can always go into contracting. Contracting is a great way to make money. But not just that. It's actually, you can actually do a lot more different sometimes working as a military contractor. PMCs make a lot of positive influences in the world, despite what you can hear on TV and in the media and stuff like that. Don't let Blackwater turn you down on that. There's a lot of great companies. Heck, even Academy, which used to be Blackwater. You know, all those triple canopy companies are great companies to work for. But let's get off that. So this is Monday's video. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I'm going to be putting together another one for Wednesday. Wednesday we're going to talk about red flag gun law confiscation passing Congress, passing the House Chamber of Congress, and it's going to be heading over to the Senate. And there's a lot of Republicans that voted for that. Dan Crenshaw, I'm looking at you. But so again, like I said, it doesn't matter what political party you're on. All of them are crap right now at this point in time. Either way, guys, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and give me some ideas for videos that you want to see. Is there a history subject that you want to hear about? Is there something from history that you might not have a great understanding about, just heard a snippet about that you want to know about? I got you on history all day. I'm going to have a video coming out soon talking a little bit about the coronavirus, the China flu. And I'm going to talk a little bit about it and why there's a lot of misinformation going around, and explain it to you the best way that I can from a standpoint of biology. So either way, Y'all have a great night.